One sec. One second, chat. All right, I'm back. I was eating a pretzel. That is a song called "L.A." by The Fall. This is a cool song. I like when they say "L.A." I thought that was interesting. So I wanted to very quickly, without spoiling, just share a couple thoughts on the boys finale. I decided I'm not going to do a spoiler thing. Just going to share like a couple quick thoughts because people keep asking me. I watched the show from the beginning. I don't really have too much to say other than the finale was very mediocre because it did pretty much everything predictably, but there were some weird plot points that I was like, wait, what is that? Where'd this come from? And it seemed really, really sudden at the end. I was like, why did these characters do this so abruptly? And aside from the idea that maybe it needed a little more time to stew, I found out they were comic book plot points that they just kind of shoehorned in. And I was like, oh, yeah. So, that happened. And, but there were some decent moments. There was like some payoff to some stuff that I thought was at least fun. And, there was like, the parody angle of what they were doing with some of the characters that paid off. But then it just kind of, I don't know what the point was. Like, what are we supposed to learn? Or what was I supposed to get out of watching 5 seasons of this show? Because in the beginning, it was kind of like a weird critique of the military-industrial complex a little bit. And, power structures. And then it just became like a parody of a political party. And I mean, I think that's also because things just became, as I said the other day, when you live in parody world, everything feels like, how do you even like talk about this? How do you do this? But it just started getting very predictable, and then every other line of dialogue became balls and cocks. Oi, Yui, cock. That guy used to put a dick up his dick. And it's like, you're having like serious moments, and then they have to go back into the Garth Ennis comic book, like ass dick gore. So what I liked about it, though, is I thought Carl Urban was fantastic, always. Anthony Starr, incredible. I actually thought the Deep's entire storyline, for the most part, was somewhat consistent. There was, and speaking of consistency, wasn't a lot of it. Powers were weaker sometimes, stronger other times, whenever the plot needed it to be. It's hard to do a superhero thing and keep it consistent, because I think the way that you use them is very heavily dependent on what writer needs what to happen at what time, and it was getting really noticeable at the end. Also, this is the only kind of semi-spoiler, so just mute for like a minute, 60 seconds, maybe less, and it's not even that bad of a spoiler. It's this. Homelander was built up as this crazy psychopath character who was going to go scorched earth and do all this crazy stuff. And then I feel like the budget got lowered in the series, and at the end they fight in a papier-mâché set. And I didn't need him to go crazy, but it certainly would have, it felt like they were building up to it, and it never really happened. They power him up to become like crazy Jesus powerful. And then they just tell you about it, and that's pretty much the same. He's just the same guy. And then, no problem. So, anyway. But, again, it wasn't really, there were some happy ending moments, and there was some good character stuff throughout the season, but it wasn't as big of a disappointment for me as Game of Thrones, but it definitely ended up feeling a little bit pointless. And the emotional beats didn't really make me emotional. And, just some very predictable basics, like stuff that I expected to happen. And I feel like one more thing is the spin-off preparation. They were preparing some characters for another spin-off they're doing. And then they disregarded their other spin-off, and I just don't think they knew what to do with this thing. And it turned into a weird mix of like, how do we make the comic book fans happy? How do we make the TV show fans happy? How do we continue critiquing? But it felt like toothless, a lot of it, at a certain point. It's like, yeah, we saw this, you do this. You won't touch certain things, but you touch other things. And by the end, I just felt like, well, what's the point? And also, there's one more plot point of the, at the end, there's the option for something. How do I say this without spoiling it? Status quo is maintained. So the main lesson is, if you have a gun but the other guy doesn't, you win. I think that's what I was supposed to get out of the show. And I think, by the end, there isn't really true change. It's just sort of like, there's just sort of, what is that, crust? Some weird crust. Whatever. I don't know. Best part were the memes. Some funny moments. Some, like, bizarre, like, weird, prescient stuff that kind of happened, and just funny. Anthony Starr's funny. So, I think I'm done talking about The Boys now forever. That's pretty much it. I did it. I watched it. I don't feel empty. I don't feel like I don't want to be necessarily like it ruined my time, because I got, I watched it. It was entertaining enough. And I'm not going to demand that it change, or like we get another ending, because remember Game of Thrones, people were like, we need a new ending. I don't care that much. so that's it. That's pretty much it. Thanks for listening. All right, chat. Now we'll play Batman. Did you see Stranger Things? I didn't even finish the last season. I didn't even bother. It just lost me too much. I was like, all right, I'm good. So, oh well.